So, hey, let's bring on Peter Ryko today. Thank you so much, Peter, for being here for our entrepreneurs and our small businesses. And Peter, without much ado, I'm going to just jump into giving a little bit of introduction about you. And then we're going to just talk about what is culture, because Peter is the master of culture, organization culture. And we're going to look at what are the main questions that really bother and small businesses really evade from simple thing like culture. It never comes as a first thing. So we're just going to have a very lucid conversation. It's going to be absolutely simple, real, and easy to implement with Peter's lovely experiences and strategies. So, Peter, once more, thank you so much. Now, Peter is a senior partner with Hofstede Insights, MENA region, and he has been with Hofstede for more than ever since 1996. That is like you are almost born and brought up there.
A dinosaur, yes, I've heard that.
and with his Swedish nationality, Polish roots, I mean, there is so much of diversity that he brings into the MENA region. So, Peter, I know that you are a master in culture, you're in teams, you've transformed organizations with transforming their cultures, like you've literally translated their goals into reality through culture. So my question to you is, before we get on to the normal thing, let's get on to knowing Peter a little more. Hey, Peter, what is it that really got you into this journey of culture and corporate culture? I mean, how can someone be so passionate about this? So let us hear about it.
Priscilla, thank you very much for inviting me and having this discussion. Together with Hofstede Insights, we've been trying to help organizations, different types of organizations, but also individuals around the globe, as a matter of fact, in coping with their culture challenges, both when it comes to national culture, but also what's happening in organizations, no matter whether they are small, medium-sized, or huge. Being a young Polish guy, I followed my heart and ended up in Sweden. Poland and Sweden share a sea, so they are basically neighbors. But from the culture perspective, those countries are located on different planets. So even though I would feel very well in Sweden, I was having my observations and my awkward moments and frankly going through culture shock. So try to understand, why is it so? Is it something wrong with me? Is it something wrong with those all those people around me? What was going on there? And I met a few very interesting and helpful people who put culture onto the map for me. And one of them, a friend of mine, a Dutch culture practitioner, a close collaborator of Professor Hofstede, got me introduced into the model that Hofstede developed to distinguish the culture differences. And that helped me a lot, and I started to practice that both personally, but also got certified and started to work with that with the organizations. At that time, I was a consultant dealing with organization development, leadership development, this type of issues. And for a couple of years was working with cross-cultural things, but parallelly I was working very much on strategizing, developing together with executive teams strategies for their businesses. And I deeply lacked the, let's say, anchoring of those discussions in organization culture. And that coincided very well with the fact that more or less in the same time, Hofstede Insights, at that time called eTeam, launched a new set of tools. Professor Hofstede had performed his first super known research on nations and cultures in the 70s. And that was considered by the world academia and businesses as a breakthrough in culture. This methodology started to be being used to describe organizations. That was the beginning of my broad smile, because this was the missing element in my puzzle. I was working very intensely with strategy, and thanks to the methodology, I was also able to add the, let's say, practical aspect of that. In other words, it's not only about planning what the organization is supposed to be doing, but also establishing whether this is feasible for the organization, to what extent the organizational setup is there to help with that strategy. And gradually, my engagement in strategy and culture started to tilt, if you can say so, towards culture. So now with that strategic, let's say, bias that I'm having, predominantly I've been working with organization culture for very different types of organizations, and then extending that into discussing to how could the culture of that organization be shaped in order to be more performance oriented, more effective strategically. Simply how to make it happen. This is the long story of a rather long journey.
Wow, that's a lovely journey, Peter. I mean, you are a legend, having said that, working at different industries, getting them to come to reality. And I think our audiences are really going to get the cream out of this discussion from you, from such an expert like you. So my question, let's dive in straight. And if you guys, every one of you, really want to have fun, stay till the end to what Peter is saying, and I'm going to give you a special invitation with a special goodie for you at the end of the program. So definitely stay till the end and take the most of this from what Peter has to say about culture. Right, Peter? So now, as we have in the UAE, I have been in HR for 27 years now, and this is particularly a very, very, how should I say, dear topic to close to my heart, and I propagate culture always. However, the smaller businesses or the mid-sized businesses, what is culture for small businesses? Is it really applicable to them, or is culture only for big businesses? What do you think?
Yeah, we are. We live in a very particular area. It's a melting pot, cultural melting pot. So it doesn't matter whether you run a 5-man company or 5,000 employees company. You are going to be experiencing culture every day, basically. And in that case, either you go with the flow and you end up in with surprises exploding in your nose every now and then, and you've got lots of turnover of your personnel. People are unhappy around you. Your customers kind of find it difficult to cooperate, or you tame the topic of culture and you are able to be on top of it. Now, it's pretty important that when we talk culture, there are two streams to have in mind, right? One of them is definitely available, not available, bombarding us every moment. This is the national culture. The fact that I'm Polish, Polish, Swedish, living here, having lived in other places, that leaves a trace in me. You are also having your own background. Now, are things that are normal for you always normal for me? Are we having the same framework of reference? Is something that you perceive beautiful also in my eyes, right? You can replace beautiful with whatever, good, advisable, I don't know, valuable, for instance, right? How much free time is valued? What is the value of free time? Is it so that your employees only work for money, or there are other aspects that they are looking for? These are all small questions that we have somewhere inside of our souls and minds that we don't often think of, but this is culture. This is how we are culturally programmed. So if you have a team of 5, and all those 5 people come from 5 different cultures, it would be good if you had some kind of common denominator. Otherwise, you might be using the same words, even the same symbols, and you turned out interpreting them differently, right? Culture, national culture, but also organization culture for that matter, can be treated as an onion. And in that case, it would have layers. The deeper you go into the layers, the closer to the nature of culture, of that particular culture you come. At the very top, you've got the symbols, things that mean things differently to different target groups, right? For some, flag in your on a button that your role models, or what is the behavior that you admire or want to follow. Then you've got the rituals, set ways of behaving that when looking from distance might look a little bit weird for those who are not aware of that. For instance, in organizations, we will be having, I don't know, Monday meetings, right? Every Monday at, I don't know, 9 or 10, you'd be having a very concrete set of questions asked, answers given, etc. The core in national culture are the values that are not tangible, but we all have them, right? And when they are set, they are set. Very difficult to influence, very difficult to change. If you transfer that into an organization, it's not about the values, even though we very often say corporate values, etc. In the anthropological meaning, these are not values, because values would be when you've got strong, emotionally loaded preferences of one state of events over the other, right? These would be the values. Broad meaning don't steal, right? But in particular situation, perhaps you would be stealing if you were hungry or whatever. So in a company, this would be cultural preferences. What is a priority for us right now? What are the beliefs that we want to follow? But all in all, the onions are more or less the same. It is good to understand what's happening in the organization, where it falls, and it doesn't matter whether that organization is huge or small. It doesn't matter, because when you've got the 5 people I mentioned that would be coming from 5 different cultures, there is a big chance, sometimes considered as a risk, that their value systems will not exactly be the same because, of course, we are all human beings and certain things are common. But as far as the emotions and those preferences are concerned, uh, then statistics and culture programming come into the picture, and in that case, there might be shifts. With those shifts, you translate them into cultural differences, and understanding how others react. How you need to understand how you react to things, what your preferences are, because culture is not something objective. Culture, in that respect, for a small business as well, for a solo entrepreneur, culture is the glasses that we are wearing. Now I'm having the glasses and I'm seeing you very clearly. But if I remove the glasses, well, probably having not seen you a moment ago, I would have a difficulty recognizing who there is. And same happens with culture. This is a filter that we look at the world through, basically. It's that's why it's so advisable to understand our own filters and theirs. Each of the 5 people that you're having in your organization, because that would mean that if you'd like to influence the people, motivate the people, there is a big chance that you need to use a different approach to relate to those things that are important for you, but also that are important for that particular person. And of course, personality would play a role. But beyond personality is also the culture program. So no, culture is a topic that is valid for any type of organization. Of course, the larger the organization, the more complex and more difficult the culture topic becomes. Would that mean that you don't don't think about organization culture when you're small? You will call it differently. You would call it how we do things here, right? And by the way, how we do things over here is the very pragmatic American definition of organization culture. So even if you've got 5 people, rules of engagement, rules of reaction, unifying the ways people treat the same situations would be needed. But of course, then it would be based primarily on your preferences as the leader of the organization, your value system, your concept of the business. Later, that needs to be agreed anyhow, because it's not about the fact whether it is the procedures or whatever are in place. It's about how we agree upon what we are doing and how we are doing. All this is a discussion about culture. You start with discussing or asking yourself questions concerning how you are supposed to be running your business. That's it.
Beautiful. I love the last line. How the definition is how you're supposed to be running the business. So just to summarize,
it's not only what you're doing. It's not only what you're doing. It's also how you're doing, and those two go hand in hand, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a fantastic way that you put it. It comes because we're living in Dubai. So just for the benefit of our audiences, I just want to summarize what you just said. So the first thing you said was because we're in Dubai, you use the word melting pot of cultures. So it's important to have national culture to know, because we come from different cultures, all of us here, and then the organization culture. So whether you're a solopreneur or whether you are a person with 1,000 employees, the starting point is to know what culture it is that you really want to have in your organization. Now, when you said that it is a must, culture is a must in the organizations, the number one thing that you said is it's about the behavior, understanding the employees. What is it that they really like? How do they behave? and then driving that to know how that will go out to your customers, to your clients, the way you do business. So like you said, if it's a Monday meeting is a culture, or having coffee before the meeting is a culture, then that is very important for you to drive it. So knowing your national culture, knowing your or team's culture, different aspects that they come from, respecting it, valuing it, understanding what their behaviors are, and then integrating that to come to a common point, a common thread that you call, which is the organization culture. Now, it could be a good idea to even document this culture, because over a period of time, you could probably forget it and people would just go on. So if you see something new, you got to document that culture, implement it, and so on. So that's a very, very valid point you've put in, because if you do not have a culture, then you know what happens. Organization just
You will always have a culture. The only question is whether the culture that you have will help you or not. Because when people start to work together with a common goal or objective, the relations start to build between or among them, the relation to their work and also the relations to the external world. This is the fully fledged definition of organizational culture.
Mm-hmm.
So you always would have that, right?
Yeah.
Your task as an entrepreneur is to make sure that the culture that you are having in your organization actually is helping you, that you don't struggle with the culture, that culture is not a hinder for implementing your goals. And that's why there is one more aspect to put into our hearts, not even minds, but hearts. Namely, when you are a small business, solo entrepreneur, 5 people business, 10 people business, very often you might be starting, and it's super fine to start with that, with that question: what culture do I want to have in my business? Because at the same time, you are asking yourself, what is it that I want to achieve? What type of company I want to have into interdependencies and broader relations when you've got more people, in other words. Then the question is different. It's not about what you want any longer. It's what you need in order for the business to succeed. And this is it is so that the sooner you start turning the question from want to need, the better, the sooner you crystallize the culture that is going to be functional. As you said, when the business is growing, it's not about only about forgetting all those things. It's also standardizing certain things so that the newcomers who have not yet acquired the culture, the history that we all together have, they are newcomers, right? They need to get onboarded in a proper way. Whom you take on board. If you cannot change, and you will not change the value system of adults, right? You can adapt their behaviors by providing them what's important for them. It might be prestige, it might be development, it might be career, it might be money, whatever. The only problem is that if it's not in your heart, in your soul, and you are being bought by external factors, that motivation will not last forever, right? Or it will cost you a fortune in terms of your well-being, in terms of your balance, in terms of your health, also all the psychological issues, right? So that's why recruiting the proper people is super important. Not only proper technically, strategically, or from the leadership perspective, but also culturally, so that they fit or change the culture according to our wishes.
Absolutely. That is so important. you said it so right, that culture is to be implemented right at the start of recruitment. So it's very important that, let's say you use the word value somewhere in between, and that triggered me saying that, okay, so how do you build a culture? So probably I've seen in organizations culture starting at the onset of recruitment. And I've seen when we've implemented in different organizations, we see that culture is derived out of values. You use the word values. And many times the business owners, and when we were implementing culture in big organizations, we wondered, there are so many area of values. What literally really fits us? So how do we literally think of business owners to select the values? And the values literally comes from what is really important to you in terms of the vision of the company. So let me give an example. So if you're saying, okay, my values are like respect, my values are drive ethically, respect for customers, respect for employees, respect to family, friends. How do people really come up to building values and then building a culture? So can you give them a step by step, if you have implemented, and sure you have implemented in organizations, what is the real strategy that they really go towards building a culture?
I'm a practitioner much more than theoretician here. And I believe that the most important question at the end of the day is how we want the person in question, whoever it would be, the first line, first responder, first line employee, whoever, a manager, how we want them to behave in concrete situations. But if this is the end result, then I would need to look at what's behind that behavior. And behind that behavior is the objective goal, target for the company. What is it that you want to achieve? Why are you here? It's already there at the level of the purpose or of the mission of the company, if you like. It's a vision that you start crystallizing the behaviors that are expected of you and your people, right? The 5 questions that I normally use when summarizing the strategic pillars leading to discussing culture. And those questions are fine, no matter what type of business you're having, what type of organization you're having, because what is your product? And this is the end of the question, with no further explanations. You, as an entrepreneur, please tell me what your product is. As your less details in the questions, the more important the answer becomes. Some would answer describing the physical product that they are selling, right? Others would answer describing the feeling the customer would be having when buying or when using the product or the service. The floor is yours. What is the product? When thinking about your strategic pillars and your strategic period, the second question is, what should high quality mean in your organization? Product, quality. What would they mean? The third one is, please tell me what the efficiency is within the parameters of your strategic pillars. So broader than just the strategic plan. Product, quality, efficiency. And the fourth one is describe the success. Describe let's imagine that the 2 years of your strategic planning have passed. You succeeded with everything. Describe that situation, please. Product, quality, efficiency, success. The fifth one is, within the strategic period, what challenges will you be having? What challenges do you envisage having within that period? So when you have the answers to these questions, then it's much easier but by the way, the answers are not supposed to be a sentence. Might be bullets that would cover the walls of your room that you're working. When you've got those bullets, those answers around you, then translating that into the behaviors, it's no problem. In order for you to shape the culture of the organization, that change, that transition needs to happen on 3 levels. Organization level, and this discussion so far is good enough for describing that, but also on the team level, you need to translate that into what my team is supposed to be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, how we should behave in all the controversial situations. The more discussion, the better, so that people not grasp the symbolic words or statements and think that they understand, but they really get into discussing difficult situations. And then that should be taken onto my own personal level. And I should be open to getting feedback on how I am doing against the agreement on the team level, against the agreement on the company level. That is also feasible. And of course, my personal behaviors, I can shape them. I can do things that I don't like. I can do things that I don't consider proper. But the longer I do that, the more cost I will pay. And in that case, for the sustainability of the change, you need one more factor, alignment between my preferences, my personal preferences, and the prescribed behaviors of the organization. So you can go even further, if you like. When you've got the optimum culture profile, you can run kind of a 360-degree evaluation of your behaviors, not plotting you on the skills map, but on the optimum culture map, meaning that you'll be getting a very thorough feedback concerning how you are walking the talk, in what respects you are the ambassador of the optimal culture of your organization, and where you've got deviance from the path. So there are a lot of smaller, bigger, easier, more difficult, more comprehensive, or super simple tools that can help you navigate, no matter whether talking about a corporation or a small organization. Definitely.
Great. I really loved your 5 questions, and thank you so much for such a beautiful answer to that question for implementing for smaller business owners. So the 5 questions, keep it simple, like what's the product, what's the quality, what's the efficiency, what success looks like, what are the challenges that you're going to be facing. Whoa, that's a beautiful thing. And once you have a big, huge answer to that question, the time is to now translate it through indicators and tools. Now, even in the tools, and I know Peter has got huge tools, and right from simple ones to for bigger organizations. And one of the things that I do when I'm doing the team bit with businesses when I'm coaching is I create a people scoreboard, and it's very much in line with what you're saying. And anybody, any one of you, and I really want to, because been in the organizations for so long, sometimes the complexity, literally, you lose the focus and it becomes a picture on the wall. So for small businesses and medium-sized business, they might not have someone like a coach or a person to come and really guide them how to build a culture. And so I really think every bit of it should be like a keep it simple, stupid is a way to put it. Culture is a very simple thing. So if you're asking these 5 questions that Peter said, I love that. The next thing is you build a tool around it. So some of the, and I call it people scoreboard tool. And when you do the people scoreboard tool, you want to really say, how is it matching to what you've asked in the product, in the quality, in the efficiency, and all of that? Like it could simply mean that how many sales calls are you making, and just put a scoreboard. Or how, are you coming? Because at the end of it, culture is also to drive performance. That's the end result for the business to grow. So how to implement that culture into, let's say, team. So new team, how do you hire? So in your recruitment, really, does it really include the questions that you must ask around your culture? That's critically important. Skill set, technical, okay, but culture. Next is performance based questions for culture on a weekly basis. I'm not talking about performance review. And for you as an entrepreneur yourself as well, that, and then what Peter said, 360-degree survey, which gives you how are you walking the talk. Again, a simple single paper tool. You've got to, and this is what we literally live and breathe when we do the team with. If you have these three things, what Peter said, 5 questions and 3 things, you are set for culture. I mean, that's really good, Peter. I think that was really good one that you brought in for the people here. Now let's talk about, is culture different on the basis of industries? You see, so let's say we coach, in the US, we coach remodeling companies. Here we coach interior fit out companies. We coach software and database companies. Whatever you name it, a trading company. Do you think, and let's talk about healthcare industry, such a massive one here. Do you think that culture is different in these as compared to a healthcare industry? And what should be the healthcare industry culture in your experience? How does it drive the organizational growth and performance?
Culture cannot be copied, which means that what works for your company with 100% certainty will not work for my company. Why? Because you are you, I am myself, right? Means that it's not only different culture among industries, it's also different culture for organizations or units within the same industry. For instance, if you've got a pharma business and you want to differentiate, of course you can differentiate through the molecules and the medicines that you're manufacturing. But if you're having 2 companies and both are in generics, then it turns out that the products sometimes are very similar. If you don't want to have pharma, go to mobile industry, right? What's the difference between one provider versus the other, right? Etisalat versus Virgin. Coverage more or less the same. Prices perhaps even similar. There are other aspects, however, how, for instance, the offer is constructed. The more people-centric business it is, the more culture becomes crucial. Business is based basically on technology and only technology, then definitely it's important for you to have right people creating the technology and launching the technology. And then culture would be important to attract them, recruit them, onboard them, keep them, and keep them as long as it goes, and defend from others. But if you are in people-intensive business, for instance, healthcare, providing healthcare for patients, creating all the trust that is needed for a patient to get the help that they need, is the competitive edge between the companies. That is so important that you should be embarking the culture journey far before you start recruiting people. You need to understand, for your own sake, what kind of people you need to have on board, because some things you will not be able to develop, you will not be able to train. You need to have certain characteristics already when a person gets on board. Then it's a question how fast you can adapt the person to the requirements that your organization is having, and how good they would, how well they would be performing their jobs. At least some part of questions that you need to ask before you recruit the people. The first one is what type of people you want to have, and the immediate other one is how can you get to these people? What messages will open their hearts or minds? Why would they be interested in joining my organization? As you see, it's not about the products. It's not about the technology. It's all about culture aspects, how we do things over here. If we are in healthcare business, no matter healthcare provision or healthcare technology, even more important sometimes, healthcare being a very particular industry, you need to start a dialogue within your core team, and then spreading throughout the organization on all those aspects. What is it about us? What is it about our people? What is it about our patients? What is it about the doctors who provide, nurses that provide the care? And all the critical moments there need to be understood and translated into the requirements that we put on people who work together, right? All that means is that you are in deep need of considering in such an industry, considering culture equally high, or in an equally important manner as you treat your strategy. Without the answers to those culture-related questions, you will be in the dark. And then it's a risky business. It's all about lives of people. It's all about their health, not to mention the well-being, right? That's why, yes, healthcare business culture would be different from any other cultures, but the true difference is the fact that it is ultra important, much more than when you manufacture just bolts and screws. Most of us probably know Zappos, the American company that started from selling shoes. There is an interesting statement describing they'd say describing themselves that well, they are in customer happiness business, and by the way, they sell shoes, right? So it's not about what they are doing. It's not about the product. It's all about the fact that the customer must always be happy, no matter what. And when I think about a shoe seller, I concentrate on the shoes and availability of the product, feasibility of all the facilities, not really culture. But Zappos totally changed that perception. If a shoe seller considers culture that important, how important culture is for a hospital, for instance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember you brought in Zappos, and I remember in 2017, I went to Vegas to visit Zappos, and now I'm remembering the culture that they had. They had no rules and regulations of timings, and they didn't have posh offices. They were free to do whatever they wanted, except with a focus of giving maximum to the customers. I mean, coming back to them immediately.
Make them happy. Definitely.
Make them happy. Same thing. Like even Jeff Bezos says for Amazon. I mean, if only I thought that my customers would ask me, I want my products to be delivered to me at a very delayed level, or I want them at a higher price. That's not what my customers want. So my focus has been, Amazon was built on the basis of my customers want it at the click of their finger, and they want it at a best price. So that is the culture. So I really like that thing that you just mentioned about the culture bit of it, and starts with before even recruitment. And so much in the healthcare industry, I know when I'm coaching, I've seen, oh, hiring nurses is such a big thing for doctors. It is such a big thing. What cultures? Because they come with different background, and it's completely a chaos, because they can't manage people, nurses who are taking care of their lovely patients, because their attitude, their culture, how we do business is not communicated to them right from the onset. And it's wrong hiring, wrong culture, complete chaos. So I think what you've said is point right, spot on there, is it starts from before, but it's also for you to answer that question, how we do business here and what is it that you want. Yeah.
Just a short remark about the nurses. How different approach to nurses, their position, all the procedures, hiring, education, exists in different countries. It's incredible. It's really incredible, because that is also a reflection of culture programming, right?
You mentioned that, and this particular aspect is so important in the people-oriented business, which is the healthcare industry. And for doctors, with all that technical knowledge that they have, with relentlessness to serve the people, this is one thing that they are not able to give time to their people and selecting, I'm talking particularly of the smaller businesses. If it's a big hospital, well, you have right people. But if you're having a hospital of just about 10 beds or 30 beds or no beds, just a dispensary, it is a challenge for doctors to really retain their staff and give great service that they want to the patient. So culture is a huge thing. So with that, I would love to even talk more about all of this, Peter, but I'm going to tell our audience that we need to give a big thank you to Peter. He deserves it, and for giving us this much of his time today. And if you want to get in touch with Peter, you have his contacts right at the end of this presentation. Please do not hesitate to connect with him, ask him for any doubts and help that you want, and he's available, and he could definitely come back to you on that one. Having said that, if you want to still continue learning with us, I'm going to say that click onto the link below for our next Business Builders Masterclass that's coming on soon. You're going to get beautiful goodies there, 2 lead magnets, 2 goodies for you to really understand how to attract, how to convert, how to deliver. And also within the masterclass, there are going to be 6 aspects for you to really, it's going to be action-packed, fun-packed. And my style is completely a straightforward, no big long lectures. It's to tell you how to implement point by point and step by step. On one is how you're going to automate your marketing system to get the leads into the business. Second, it's how you're going to automate your sales and have a system without going to even generate people leads when you're sleeping. Third is you're going to really look at how to maintain your positive cash flow when you already have all of this business coming in. It's a different game altogether to look and manage your budgets and your financial scoreboard. And then you have the team building. If you cannot grow, you cannot have a business by yourself ever. You need to have people to grow and scale, whether internally or externally. Whether you have virtual assistants, outsource, it still needs culture. So that is what you're going to be learning in our Business Builders Masterclass. It's a 3 hours masterclass. You're going to have a lot of takeaways. I'm going to give you a huge amount of training, which you can go and implement right away into your business. So having said that, click on the link below to register for the webinar, and please do get in touch with Peter. And it's been a fantastic moment and time with you, Peter. I hope you enjoyed. Likewise with the audience. I have just one small thing for you. What is the message you would like to give to our entrepreneurs on this aspect of culture? What is one takeaway that you want to tell them as a leaving message?
Priscilla, thank you very much for the delightful meeting. It's been a pleasure to discuss that with you and your audience. And as far as the one takeaway, I'd say it's never too early to start discussing culture and trying to find out the way how it can work for you, no matter what scale of business you are presently in. The 5 questions is something that you start with. When you've got the answers, you've got a foundation for discussing what is it, how is it that you're supposed to be working there. So definitely it's never too early.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you
for a
very much
wonderful
indeed.
session.